Again, just pumped to be here and have a few thoughts I want to share before we start with worship. But I did want to just share some things that are awesome and that happened yesterday. I'm extremely proud of all my daughters, but my youngest daughter, Jordan, shared at the Earth Day rally downtown. So she actually, probably in front of 100 people, was, I think, the youngest person to share there and shared and did an awesome job. So clap her up for that, representing. And then I also heard some incredibly awesome news, and that is that Steve and Joni just celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary. 50th anniversary. That is awesome. Congratulations, you guys. That's so great. So there's just some fun things that we can kind of be happy about and celebrate on top of being able to be together and meet and worship together. And I wanted to, just before I turn it over to the worship team today, and I mentioned this in the announcements, but I just want to maybe acknowledge that as exciting as it is to meet and be together, I think it still could be a bit challenging. Like, I don't know if some of you, as you were getting ready to come here today, felt nervous or worried or anxious, and I think it's important for us just to admit and acknowledge we might feel some of that. Like, we have not done this in like a year. That is crazy to me that we haven't met together, that we haven't been at church with one another. That is outside of this, the longest in my life I'd ever not been to church was, I think, 3 weeks in a row. So now I've gone on like a year, kind of crazy. So anyways, I think outside of our true introverts, I've talked to a few people that are like, I love everything about this whole quarantine and COVID. Like, this is life, how I want to live it, just by myself, shut in my room. Outside of a couple of those people, I think that it's just going to be a transitional, like, it's just going to take us some time to get back into the swing of doing community together. And so if you feel, even during worship, if you feel maybe some waves of anxiety or worry, or if you just feel awkward, that's okay. There's probably other people feeling that way too. And I think it's good for us just to acknowledge that, like, okay, I'm probably not alone in this. I can talk to people about this. But again, I just want to encourage us to push past that. To, if you feel that, just take a moment to recenter your heart on God, recenter your heart on the Spirit, and just ask for that worry or that anxiety to go away, and just keep worshiping. And as we worship and as we do life together again, it'll start to feel more and more normal, I think. Does that make sense? If you just feel ready to rock today, that's awesome as well. You can really just, I just don't want Jehu and the worship team to just feel like super alone up here. And so, let's be with them as we worship today. Sound good? All right, stand up, and I'm going to turn it over to Jehu and the crew. I want you to just take a moment as the worship team just keeps playing. And I think this is a song we've known for a long time. And I think today, as we gather just to worship, we can sing it with a new reality in our hearts and our spirit, that we would never have guessed that the way that the last year or so was going to go. But one thing that we're knowing, maybe even on a deeper level than we ever have, is how true this is, that it doesn't matter what's going on in life. It doesn't matter how crazy things get all around us. God's love never fails us. Like, God's love was never absent through the whole process. And I think, I'm hoping, I know from talking to different ones of you, that this year was a place where you encountered that love in a different way. I'm not going to say deeper or better or whatever, just a different way, that realization that, God, you're faithful and you never fail us. And no matter what else is going on, what remains is that your love is stronger than any of it. And so I want to encourage us just to take a moment just of quiet prayer, meditation, just to express your thankfulness for that. Like, we don't have, it didn't have to be a God that loved us that much, but God does. And we could have had a God that fails us when things get really crazy, but we don't. And so just take a moment to tell God and express to God how incredibly grateful you are. Hopefully how overwhelmed you are by that reality. And if you're struggling to see that or feel that, the beauty of this God that loves us so much is we can just be honest about that. We can tell him that we're struggling and that we need to feel that powerful love again in a fresh day. So just play this for a while and just take a moment to express that to God in your way. Today, God, we just express wherever we are, in whatever state we are, just our gratitude for your incredible love. Thank you that you never give up on us, that you never abandon us, that you never leave us alone. And that your love is something that we get to experience in wave after wave after wave, that there's no end to it. We can't get to the bottom of your love. Our situations can't get too desperate that your love isn't there. We can't run too far that your love isn't chasing us the entire way. And I just am so grateful for a creator that cares about us and loves us on that level. We thank you today. We ask you to keep growing in our hearts and in our minds and in our spirits, that by worshiping you today, by reminding ourselves of your love and your goodness, that you would only grow in those places of our life. I ask that for every one of us today, that your love would start to creep into the places of our lives that we haven't let it go yet. Work to those places of our hearts, whether it's because they're hard or because they're afraid or whatever reasons we've blocked them off. God, I ask that your love would just keep pressing its way upon those places. And that we would be a people that continue to know to the innermost places of our hearts how powerful and great your love is. We invite you to keep working to keep going deeper in us. Thank you for your faithfulness in your pursuit.
So during the past year, I get to take this off. The thing about sharing is you get to take your mask off. Through lots of, get to spend time with God, right? And I became aware of something in me that I was looking back at my childhood, looking back at churches that I've been in, and I began to realize that there's parts of me that I didn't like very much, and that I felt like God was disappointed in me. If God was disappointed in me, then other people must be disappointed in me, and it just became kind of a revelation time. And it wasn't like that kind of disappointment where, you need to lose 10 pounds. It was, there's just something not right about me, the way I was made or whatever. And that was a hard thing, but it was really a good thing, because looking back, I had opportunity to look back into my childhood and into the churches, and found some reasons why that happened. But in the midst of it, I came, what I really have been digesting is Psalm 139. And in verse 13, I'm going to read it out of the Message, which might be a little foreign to some of you, but you'll recognize it. Oh yes, you shaped me first inside, then out. You formed me in my mother's womb. I thank you, high God, you're breathtaking, body and soul. I am marvelously made. I worship in adoration. What a creation. You know me inside and out. You know every bone in my body. And you know exactly how I was made, bit by bit, how I was sculpted from nothing into something. Like an open book, you watched me grow from conception to birth. And all the stages of my life were spread out before you. The days of my life all prepared before I even lived one day. And I had an amazing time with my father, who said, there isn't one part of you that is a mistake. And, I'm 72 years old. How did I get here this long with thinking that? But, God does it in stages. But what it did was allowed me to be who I am, and to love who I am, to like who I am, to say God knit every cell of my body in the womb. So for me to say, God, I'm just not good enough, that's like insulting God. It's insulting my father, because I'm saying you didn't do it good enough. I'm not as good as Mary, so I need to, in whatever, so I need to do this and this. And it's like God didn't do it good enough. And that really just was huge life changing for me. And as I was thinking about coming to church, I was thinking, I need to be who I am. I need to be in a church where I can be just who I am. Crazy, whatever, just be who I am. But you know what? Once I do that, I can let everybody else be who they are. I can let Jim and Elma and Muriel and everybody just be who they are. What other kind of church do we want to be? That's the most important thing to me, is that we come and just be who we are, because that is the best we can be.
Jesus, we need you. We need you so much, God. And this need isn't something that binds us up, restrains us. It's something that frees us. Frees us to be fully ourselves. Frees us to live without fear. God, we need that, and we need you in every way. From this season, we know that we need you, God. Thank you that we get to come together and gather and feel your freedom. But God, I also praise you that your freedom isn't just in this building, that this necessity that we have for you can't just be filled in this time that we have together, but that both our need and our have of you is always. Thank you for being that kind of God. Thank you for being with us. Holy Spirit, guide us in living into that freedom and living into our identity as free and loved children of God. Teach us how to feel that, to fully believe it, to share that, and to show it. God, I just thank you so much for this group of people that loves you. Thank you for the love that we have for each other, to be in community with one another, to get to fully know how you are present and living in our own hearts and the hearts of each other. I pray that this next season would be a time of learning so much deeper from how you are living and working in all of us, that we would be able to share the work that you've been doing in us in times and moments of more isolation, that all of that is preparing us and equipping us, empowering us to be better community and to love one another better as well. God, I thank you for your freedom.
It's awesome, worship crew. You guys can be seated out there. Okay, here's a second chance. Let's give the worship crew a big hand clap here. There we go. There we go. I like that. I like it. Thank you so much, Jehu. That was awesome. Roz, you guys sound so good together. It's great. And I know this is like what old people say, but I'm an old person. It's crazy. See, like most all of you look the same except for our young people. Like when you don't see them for a while, it's like, holy cow. Walked in and Noah's like, are you shrinking? I was like, no, you're growing. So it's fun to see you guys again, and a little bit freaky to be like, wow, they've grown a lot. So today I want to just, I didn't prepare a message because I really wanted to just participate and be a part of just worship and what we were doing. And but I did have a few thoughts that I wanted to share and just throw out there to you. Next week, I'll be getting into preaching again, and I am really excited about what I want to hit. So we'll be talking, or I'll be presenting something to you that is fairly different, and so I want to encourage you to be here. I'll get a little more out to you this week about what that is, but I'm looking forward to it. I did want to just say this, as grateful as I am to be here today and to be worshiping with people and seeing people, I think I also had this just realization as we were worshiping that just because we weren't able to meet, we weren't getting together, we weren't seeing each other, I realized in so many ways we didn't stop being a church. We didn't stop being a community. And I just found myself kind of thinking back through moments through the year where, whether we knew somebody was praying for us or somebody reached out to us. And I heard from different ones of you that We're still doing Bible studies through Zoom or a couple other things that we did to connect that way and encourage one another. And it just made me grateful. Grateful for those moments throughout the year, even some of the fun and silly things, like Joe putting together the Christmas video that we put out, and still getting to hear from Jim Anderson this year. And actually, Jim, we need you to bring those masks, because I'm having a hard time. I can't see your face. I can't see if you're smiling or frowning. It's almost worse. I'd rather see angry faces just so I could gauge what people are thinking or feeling, and I can't get that at all today. Just some of your eyes smile well, but others not so much, so I can't tell. Like, I don't know what you're doing. And so maybe you could just bring like 50 of those. They're awesome. That would be helpful. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that those of you that are here and others have reached out to people that God's put on your heart, and that you've been there for one another still through this season. I think it's important for us just to acknowledge that and be like, God, when things change and the normal way of doing things aren't happening, there is bonds and there is connection and there is a reality that we walk in that isn't affected by that. And so thank you. The other thing kind of with that as well is being a church still, like, this blows me away, but so many of you continue to give through the year, and we weren't getting together, we weren't meeting, and that was really special to me, but also just, I think, a cool sign of the community we are, that wasn't affected. I talked to I don't talk to a lot of different churches, but I talked to some people that are a part of other churches, and that was something that really affected their churches, and it didn't really affect us. And we were still able to, through the year, even though we weren't getting together and talking about it, we were still able to give out. And so we supported Coach John all year long, and there were different things that came up that I'd put out in announcements and people gave to. And so we're still able to be, even though we're not getting together, we've still been able to be a community that gives out and affects other people's lives. And we are doing that. Today, they're not here, but there's a couple families that we've been helping kind of all through the year, and they said that they were going to be here, but they're not. So we'll see. But I think just being able to do that through meals and through money, where we've helped people. The family that we helped at Christmas is one of the families that plan on being around. And so thank you for that. And I think my wife wanted to share kind of along those lines.
So along with Steve Allen, Andrew and I have been going to Feed Spokane most Mondays. Sometimes we rotate, like Steve goes and picks up one week and we pick up the other, but there's families, so this organization rescues food from Costco and restaurants and grocery stores and then it's meant to be given out to people who need food. And so we have been able, Steve serves a couple of families every week, and then we have had, just in a variety of ways, different families start reaching out to us asking if we can help. And so we've been doing food deliveries weekly or bi-weekly, and just recently, probably in the last couple of weeks, we had a family contact us through the Facebook site, right? Through the church's Facebook. And this person has, she has autoimmune disease, so it's been very, she can't be out in public much. And then her husband has been mostly out of work. They have teenagers. So she's just asking for help with food and practical things. So I wanted to share this because they're behind on their water bill, and I just wondered if as a group we could do a little bit to help with that. And so if you'd be interested in giving to that, how do you want to do that? Okay, so put a giving box back there, or you send it into the church, or put an IOU in so that we know how we can help them this week. So thank you so much.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Let it loose. Let it loose. That was one of the slowest builds I've ever. That was just like, boom, beep, and then just, should we do it? Should we not? Like, it's all right. We're out of practice. It's okay. And I'll put something in announcements too, just through email this week to remind you in case you don't have anything this week, and to let other people kind of know. The kind of what I want to leave us with today, we won't go too long, but I want us to be thinking about a couple things as we get back together and as we restart. And I think we've all learned probably a lot about our faith through this year. And at some point, I think it would be fun to have a meeting where we just let people share about things that God's done in their life through this year, different things that they've learned, struggles, whatever, like just a time to regroup and kind of hear from people what this journey's been like. But I'm hoping, and I've definitely heard from enough of you to know that this is happening, that as challenging as things maybe have been, that we're finding that there's blessings in disguise through this year, through this shutdown, through these life as we know it being changed, that there are things that have been a blessing, that God's given us maybe more time with our family, that he's given us time to pause and stop, and he's gone deeper into our lives. Even like Joni was talking about, like being able to have moments to pause long enough where we can even let the Spirit kind of point out to us what's going on the inside. And that's a blessing. Like that's something good that's coming from this. I think one of the other things that could be a real strength for us coming out of this season is that it should be a season where we are asking ourselves maybe questions about things. That's very vague, right? But specifically questions about our faith. Again, it's very hard to read any faces this morning, but I'm hoping that, and I'm guessing that as you've gone through this year, you've been asking yourself some of those questions, like, what's church really about? And why do we go? And what should church look like? And what is my place in it? And what is my faith like? Where's my faith really if I feel like possibly there's nothing happening just because we're not getting together on a Sunday morning? Like, what's really going on? And I love this about our Creator, is that he is completely okay with us asking questions. He maybe designed us that way, that we would ask questions and we would not be okay just staying in the same place. And so I think I would like to encourage us to keep asking those questions. That as we get back together, you would be asking yourself, what should church look like? Where do we need to maybe grow? Where do we maybe need to change? What does God have for us as a community? It would be, I think, a real strength for us if we would do that, if we would be asking not only what should church look like, but what part or what parts do you have to play in what it should look like? What's your role? Is there some sort of change? Is there some sort of place that we need to grow or we can grow as a community that you're supposed to be a part of helping bring about? Is there some place or something new that God would be calling you to? Does that make sense? I'm going to have to ask, just to see head nods, because, again, I can't read your faces at all. It's so weird. Oh, those are good questions to be asking, I think important ones. And I really would love to hear your musings and those thoughts and be a part of that discussion with you. If you're feeling something for our community or your place, please find some way to share that with me. But again, I do think that it's a season for us to grow. And I think it's a season for us to make some changes. And so I see that happening on kind of two levels that I just want to throw out there to you. I would love to see there maybe be a group of people that would be interested in kind of getting together through Zoom or something at a park some way and just talking about ways that we could maybe grow in this restart. That's something that's going to help us do that as a community, pull people together, things that maybe we want to be doing as we do get back together. And so I'll put that out in announcements in a way that maybe makes more sense than I just said. But I would love to hear if there are people that are interested in that. And then the other thing that I want to throw out there is something really new. We've never done this before. But we just happened to be at a time period where we were having some change with our church board. And so some people that have been a part of it are moving on and out, and I'm so grateful for everybody that's been a part of our church board. But I want to do something that we've never done, and that is usually when a member has transitioned out, then we've kind of talked about and reached out to different people to say, hey, do you want to be maybe on the board? And what I want to do is actually just throw it out there to everybody. And so I want to know if you're interested. Up until this point, the board is mainly something that just oversees the finances of our church. And so it's not a huge time commitment. At the most, it would maybe be one meeting a month, but usually for anybody that's been on the board, you know that it's like 2 or 3 meetings a year. We just don't have a lot of change when it comes to our finances around here, which is great on some level. But I really would like to commission a board of people to find and look at some ways of maybe strategizing about some ways that would just make our church more welcoming and inviting to people that don't feel welcomed and invited to churches. And it's not so much that, and I think you know my heart, I don't care about church growth. I don't care about those aren't our building fund drive pictures up on the wall, right? I don't care about being a big church or any of those different things, but I really have been feeling this since you specifically talking about the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, and that story being about hospitality. And in that story, if you remember, both examples of God's heart were people that were actually focused outside, looking for people that they could show hospitality to. And I think I've had a little bit of, in my own heart of like, well, God, if there's people you want to bring to this community, somehow in a miraculous way, you'll bring them to our church. And maybe even I'll make it as hard as possible. We won't put a sign out in front of our church, and we'll keep it real secret that we even get together. And I'm still kind of like that theory on some level, but I feel like God wants us to grow there. And so I think there's places where we need to be proactive in learning how to be an inclusive and affirming church and get that out there to people that are looking for that. And here's the difference between what like church growth kind of stuff that's out there and what I'm talking about is that there are people that have been hurt and damaged by Christians. I think we all know that at this point. And so damaged that it is incredibly scary for them to even walk into a church on a Sunday morning because they don't know how they're going to be looked at. They don't know how they're going to be treated. And I think a lot of people in that boat have sources that they find that tell them if certain churches are safe and what they believe and what they're doing. And I think that's just a really simple, well, actually, I don't know if it's simple. That's part of what I need people to figure out, how simple it is to be a church that gets vetted and in that way, and that would be known that, hey, this is a safe place. They're going to love you and accept you no matter who you are, what you believe, how you live. They want to show God's love to you. Does that make sense? Yeah, I can't see. All right. So will you just be praying? Thank you. All right, thank you. Some of you are like, will you just be praying about that and talking about it? Again, we'll put this online for people, the rest of the church to hear, and I'll put it out in email. But even if you are thinking about it and you think, man, this person would be awesome on the board, maybe give them a little nudge and be like, hey, have you thought about this? Because you're gifted at that, and you'd be able to be a part of looking into it. So we need people that are practical. We need people that are kind of visionaries. We need people that are good at doing research and some groundwork to kind of figure that out and look at it. But I just felt God putting that on my heart, that would be something for us as a church to really grow. I believe that you all are amazing people that have a heart to show love to people that are hurting. And so I think it's time for us to look out for those people, search for them a little bit, see who God might put on our heart. And so with that, also, would you just be asking yourself, I think we're in a season, again, where it's not just us, but I think a lot of people are finding themselves in a place where they're asking those questions. And I think there's people out there that are going to come out of this desperate for a real, authentic community. And I think it's possible that sometimes we just take for granted what we have. And I think we take for granted and can take for granted the community we have and the love and bonds that we have for each other. And so I just want you to put this in your field to think about. There may be people in your circle that you should invite to church this year sometime, that you should let them know that you have a community there that you can be real in, and if they're looking for something like that, you would love for them to come with you. I think sometimes we even forget to mention to people sometimes that we've found a place where we're trying to walk out authentic community with each other. And again, I just feel like this is a weird season of time where God's maybe wanting to do something there and help us reach and love more people. Make sense? All right. The head nods are actually, you're picking it up that I can't see your faces, and so you're giving me the head nods. I like that. So you're open for that. Be thinking, praying about that, considering who's in your circle, and just being open to sharing with them about what God's done in your life and what he is doing in your life and the community that you have, and we'll see what God has for us. I think one thing we've learned, or at least I'm learning over this season, is we can't really count on anything. Like, we can't plan on anything, really. And so even us meeting together, like, I'm holding it with a very open hand that 2 days from now, Jay Inslee will be like, nope, you guys don't get to meet anymore. So that's possible. We just are learning to live that way, and we'll see. And so I want to put this out there very I don't know for sure anything other than God loves us. But these are some things that I feel in my spirit that are going to be happening and changing, and that God wants to do in our community. And I really want us to be, as a whole, thinking about that and praying about that and letting God do something in our spirit in terms of what he has for us this next year. Make sense? Cool. Let me just pray over us, and then we'll end a little early so that we got time to talk some more with each other, because I know we're looking forward to that. God, I just thank you so much for this awesome chance to just be together and worship you. And I'm so grateful to feel and sense your love in a community of people this morning. I know that I've felt your love lots this year and always can, but it's so fun to just be able to do that together with a group of people that I love. And God, I ask that you would help all of us as we begin to restart community life together and church life together, that you would help us be focused on what you have for us, that we would lay aside our own plans and our own hopes, and we'd let you put new hopes and your plans inside of our heart. I ask that for people that maybe haven't seen themselves as somebody that has something great to bring to the community, would you help every single one of us see that we have something to bring, something to give? Like Joni said, that you made us special, and because of that, we have a part to play and a role to play. Help us maybe see afresh and anew what you have for this community. I thank you that you're faithful. I thank you for everybody here and those that aren't here this morning. Would you just continue to help us love each other well? Amen. All right. Oh, yes, you can.
I'm out of practice of sharing it, apparently. So the other thing I wanted to mention about the food pickup is that we're using it as a way to love and serve and meet families, and there's plenty of stuff that we can pick up. So if anybody has neighbors or coworkers or friends or family or someone that might benefit from from food delivery, like we could deliver to them or we could get it to you to take to them. It's just an awesome way to meet a practical need for people. And so I had wanted to mention that also.
Awesome. All right. Stick around, talk with each other, catch up, and we'll see you next week.